just past the year mark of working at the card shop that I am. In that time, I started out as a card side employee. Then I moved on to being the card side specialist after a few months. And now, the manager at our second location is going to be leaving us. And my boss has decided that the least impactful way, like the least destructive way to our main location is to move me over as it. Instead of taking one of our supervisors on the card side or game side, which it makes sense. I'm trained in all the procedures that the card side supervisor is. The only difference is I have not been in a position of supervising. I have not been in a position of paying attention to my coworkers' skills and their work rate and their ethics. All of that. I've had to deal with some of it on the days I work one day that the card side supervisor doesn't. So on that day, I am in that role. But later this month, at some point, it looks like I'll be moving over to our second branch, our second shop. And it's a bittersweet one, honestly. Ever since I got the card side specialist position, I've kind of been angling to do more than just being the card side specialist. I said numerous times to my coworkers, to my boss, that I wanted to take it to more of just a specialist role. I wanted to know how to do game side too. I thought that I would be more helpful to the shop if I could run everything, and I thought that it made sense given my position, that I should be able to do more of that stuff, be intermingling. And at our second branch, there is no division between card side and game side. It's a much smaller shop that doesn't come into play. And I gotta hope that nobody watches these, because if they happen to be in the area, it's very easy to know which shop I'm talking about. But that is, I mean, maybe I'll just wait to actually publish this one to YouTube. These operate more as a video journal than anything else, honestly. Just to get my thoughts out. But that it's a bittersweet pill, because one, I have been angling for this, so it is not unexpected. Should specifically the position of managing the second shop open up, that is the one I've been putting myself to be in the conversation for. It does make the most sense. Instead of moving over one of our supervisors and then having to appoint somebody into the supervisor role and then train, like if they moved the card side supervisor over and then I moved into the supervisor role and then they had to train a new specialist, it's an extra step. Whereas moving me just means you move somebody into the card side specialist role and you train them to be able to handle, really, now that it's not me, Saturday and Sunday. Those big ones. Being able to handle Saturday and Sunday, whereas I have had Friday and Saturday off. The big thing has been Saturday. That's been the day we really needed somebody who is in specialist or the supervisor role to be in on Saturday. It's not been me, because that's been my D&D group day, and I've not wanted to. I already gave up my Saturday, Sunday off when they decided to change the supervisor's days, So it was, decided not to move me. Supervisor really didn't want to lose the Saturday, Sunday off. So this ultimately works out to get the thing I've wanted, which is somebody who's not me in that specialist or supervisor role on Saturday. It just happens that it means I'm not going to be at the main shop the entire time. There's a camaraderie at the main branch that I don't really think exists. Part of it is just because it's so small at our second shop. It's so much smaller. The rent is higher, or almost the rent. I'm pretty sure that's it. The rent is higher for a space that's less than half the size. There's a location. It's just not great. It's not great. And I've joked with my coworkers, maybe I could go there and turn it around. I'm not really sure there's a turning it around, honestly. I'd love it if I could, but I'm not really sure that's in the cards. I think it's the location. It is what it is. And it's so high at that spot. Break even. I'm not really sure there's much that can be done. It's in a really good spot. Not the best spot, but a good spot. There's a lot of traffic that passes by the area. It's in more of a more affluent area. So, I'm not really sure. I'd love to turn it into something that is successful. Something that the boss would not want to shut it down. Not only is this happening for me personally on a level, the business overall is going through a change, as one of the co-owners is now in the process of leaving, selling out entirely, and then exiting. So there's a lot. Change begets change. There's a lot going on. But now that I've failed my doctoral, I'm always going to keep harkening on that, because that is such a factor in everything right now. That's a factor in my life. That is one of the most major moments in my life, and I will always look back on it as such. So I'm going to keep harkening on it. Now that I am 2 months out, a failed doctoral candidate, I'm in it. I'm in. I've said before to my bosses, they know, and I'm still honest with them, I'm not actively looking for other work, but if something came along the lines of the job that almost pulled me away, which was to be the assistant manager for a substance use treatment program near where I live, if something along those lines came again, and I was working for a charity as well, something along those lines came again, I would leave for that. That is very near to using my master's degree. That is something that I would absolutely love doing. But unless it's something along those lines, working for a charity, working in that line of work, that I think I could turn that into a career where I work for charities and nonprofits my whole life, unless that comes along, I don't see myself leaving. I've got a routine, and I'm a very routinized individual. I like structure and order. I've got my routine. It's going to change a little bit, because my off days are going to change, should this come to fruition. Right now, the thought is I'd be off Friday, Sunday, be working Monday through Thursday, then work Saturday, all at the second location. That would be a different structure. I At one point in time, I liked the ideas of split work days, and I had them while I was a teacher, of course. But the big thing about it is I worked 2 days, sometimes Wednesday, then I had 4 off days, 5 off days if I did nothing on Tuesday, Thursday. Loved it as a teacher. You know, I'd get off on Friday and I'd have nothing again until Tuesday, and I wouldn't even think about things until Monday. So that was more so just the amount of days I worked, not that it was split. So this will be different, and especially because it's Saturday and I'm losing my D&D day. Now maybe we can switch that to Friday, maybe we can switch it to Sunday. We'll see. But this is an opportunity I got to take. And, you know, again, this is giving me time to write. I finished up a short story. I edited it. I sent it out to a journal that always does reviews. I got rejected, very unsurprisingly. But I got some good feedback on it. I don't think I'm really going to take that feedback and do much right now. What I should do, what I want to do is, I've got the feedback stored in like an email. I should take that feedback, just copy it off the email, put it into the document, put it into my Word doc with the short story, and then save it for later, way down the line. Right now I want to edit my book. And I'm on to chapter 3 of editing that. So, I'm going through, I've done some rewrites, some adjustments, some things that I know need to happen. My brain has had a hard time getting back to the book off of the short story. I really enjoyed writing the fantasy short story a lot. I really enjoyed writing fantasy. And of course, my brain is looking at my book and thinking, there are so many different angles I can take this from. It's hard for me to not want to take it from every different angle. Right now, I don't want to. An idea I have is I finish editing this version of the book, get it to a point where I like it, structure that I'm okay with. Then, while I'm shopping that around with agents who will most likely reject it, maybe some will give me feedback and I can use that feedback to strengthen it, maybe eventually, but like very few people can be Patrick Rothfuss and get their first book published. My gosh. At the same time, I could either write a new story, a new book, or I could write another version of this one. Because I've got a very similar, though I've got most of the same premise, but I've got a very different locale or different idea as to how to explore it. And the way that could work for me, you know, maybe I could write just a completely different version of this book. Still the same core characters, the same premise, but halfway through the book, well, a little bit under half, definitely under halfway, a third, maybe like a quarter of the way through the book, I started to really dive into supernatural elements that I had introduced to the book. And ultimately, it became supernatural fiction. I could write another version of the story that doesn't become supernatural fiction, but just immediately starts out as such. That could be really interesting. And maybe this first version of the book doesn't end up getting published because it is a little ragtag. You can tell the original ideas I had are not the ideas that ultimately emerged. And that might work. Maybe that does work. And on rereading, I am adjusting because there are definitely elements that don't work. But maybe I could write a second version of the book that just completely goes supernatural, 100%, all the way through supernatural. And maybe that version would work better. maybe that could be the one. Maybe I could write a third version of the book. If I'm really on this same core premise, this same idea, I could write a third version that goes completely away and removes the supernatural and goes back to my original premise, which was a detective fiction story without the person being a cop. The lead character is a priest. I could do detective fiction through that lens. I could do detective fiction through, and I could completely flip it. And the person who's being investigated, the person who dies in the original version of the story, maybe they're the ones that lived. Maybe they're the one that lived. And they're investigating the original main character of the story. So maybe I could do a version of the book where it's completely supernatural, do another version where it is entirely not supernatural, if I want to stay with this same story. At some point, while editing this, I'm going to take a break from editing it. I'm going to write another short story, and I'm deciding whether or not I want to write another fantasy one with the same core characters, but a different style, different story, or if I want to write something entirely different. I'd like to do that. I'd like to write a sci-fi one, something entirely different. Just that, so I can try out different things. The biggest thing about the short story that I wrote was not that, oh, I thought this was great and it was going to get published, but that it literally was just about trying out ideas. I wanted to try out some very generic fantasy style. I wanted to do some stereotypical stuff. I wanted to do some very thick descriptions on characters that I did not do in the book. I mentioned this, I'm pretty sure, in my last update. I think I went through all this. Yeah, that short story was just to really try out a different style of writing. Tried out inner monologues for the first time. Maybe elements that I can incorporate into a second version of my book. But right now, I don't know. It is what it is. The big thing is the work stuff and the editing of the book. It's bittersweet. Well, to get back onto the original premise of this video, it's a bittersweet pill in moving to the second location, because the camaraderie that I've felt with my coworkers at the main location, the main shop, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss that. I still got like 2 weeks or so or whatever. I don't know exactly when. The end of this pay period, end of this month. I don't know exactly when it would happen. But if it does happen, that's when it'll be. So I still got time. I'll do another update probably when that happens. Signing off until then.